What's up guys, Tommy Bowyer here from Movie Rewind, and today I'm going to be talking about some underrated episodes of Doctor Who. So without further ado, let's get into it. Since the revival of Doctor Who in 2005, we have had some of the greatest examples of sci-fi I have ever seen. I mean, some of the episodes of Doctor Who are flawless. I can hardly find any faults with them. But there are episodes since the revival which I personally think are underrated. So I thought today, to get us in the mood, as obviously the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who is right around the corner, I thought it'd be a really interesting idea to list some underrated episodes of Doctor Who. Now, if you have been subscribed to this channel for a while, you may know that I did a video like this earlier in the year, and I really enjoyed it. And obviously there are so many more underrated episodes of Doctor Who which I didn't include in that video, so I thought it would be a great idea to have another go and list some more underrated episodes of Doctor Who. Now, much like that video, I'm going to be listing one underrated episode of Doctor Who for each of the modern era Doctors. So from the 9th Doctor to the 13th Doctor. So obviously I'm not really watched a lot of classic Who, so I feel like any opinions I would have on that wouldn't really be warranted, because I haven't seen enough of it to really make a judgment. And obviously I just want to add that this is obviously my own opinions, so please feel free to comment down below what underrated episodes of Doctor Who you think deserve a mention. The 9th Doctor. Now, the 9th Doctor only had 13 episodes, so obviously to say that certain episodes are underrated in his era are a little harder because there's not that many to choose from. However, one which I always think people seem to gloss over is the 3rd episode of Series 1, The Unquiet Dead. Now, for anyone out there who says, oh, I wish the 9th Doctor had a Christmas special, I always think that The Unquiet Dead is basically the 9th Doctor's de facto Christmas special. I mean, it's set at Christmas, it has Charles Dickens in it, it has ghosts in it, and I just think it's a really creepy and fun episode as well. I like how it establishes the kind of rules for travelling back in time, how an individual can be born in the 20th century but die in the 19th. I think that's a really crucial element of Doctor Who which really needed to be made clear in the first historical episode. I think Charles Dickens is great. I love how we see him near the end of his career, where he's now a bit more cynical, he's a bit sceptical of the idea of ghosts existing. And I also really enjoy the Gelf as villains. I think the Gelf are great, how they kind of appear as these very kind of harmless creatures which are just wanting to be saved from extinction, but it actually turns out that they are the villains. They know exactly what they're doing, and they plan to take over humanity using the gas and decomposing human bodies. So I really do like this episode. I think it's fun, I think it's creepy, I think it's got a great historical figure in the form of Charles Dickens. Plus, I really like the interactions between the 9th Doctor and Charles Dickens in this episode. Probably the highlight of the episode for me. The 10th Doctor. Now, the 10th Doctor era was my era. It's the era I grew up with, so obviously the nostalgia is very strong with episodes from his era which I feel are underrated. However, I'm going right back to Series 2, Episode 2, Tooth and Claw. Now, Tooth and Claw is an episode which I don't think people talk about enough, because I personally think it's a great episode. It's a very tense episode. I love the werewolf in it. I think, you know, for 2006, the CGI is not actually that bad. So, you know, compared to modern Disney CGI, I don't think the CGI on the werewolf is that bad. Queen Victoria, once again, a great historical figure. I really like what the actor did with that role, and how we kind of see this very strong woman, because Queen Victoria, of course, was a very strong woman. So I think it's great she was portrayed in this way. I love the Doctor and Rose. I think more than the series opener, New Earth, Tooth and Claw is really where we start to see the chemistry between the Doctor and Rose and how they're going to work for that series. Plus, I love how even Queen Victoria is a bit shocked at how much fun they seem to have in the face of danger, and I really do think that it establishes that ongoing thread through series 2 that the Doctor and Rose are just taking far too many risks and thinking they're going to get away with it. So I really like Tooth and Claw. It's a very tense episode. I love the werewolf chasing the Doctor and Rose around the mansion. I think it leads to a lot of tension, plenty of horror moments in this episode as well. Plus I love the idea of the werewolf, how it's actually an alien being and how they intend to take over the royal family in order to build an empire of the wolf. I just think it's a very interesting concept, and I think it's very underrated. Now, for the 11th Doctor era, I have chosen the 2012 Christmas special, The Snowmen. Now, I'm going to be honest, the 11th Doctor Christmas specials are not my favourite. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the fact that Stephen Moffat is a bit too Christmassy, whereas I preferred the Russell T Davies era Christmas specials where, yes, it was Christmas, but it weren't overboard, where I feel like Moffat sometimes went a bit overboard with the Christmas specials. Saying that though, The Snowmen is one which I always think is underrated, and I don't think enough people talk about it. I mean, you've got Richard E. Grant and Ian McKellen. Both are great. I mean, they're great villains. They really are. I love what they do with the Great Intelligence in this special. I think it's an interesting plan that the Great Intelligence has in terms of creating an army of these snowmen to try and take over the world. It sounds quite stereotypical, but I think it works for a more laid-back Christmas special. I really like what they do with the 11th Doctor. This is the 11th Doctor directly after he has lost Amy and Rory. And I think it's great to see the Doctor's given up. I mean, you would expect an incarnation like the 12th Doctor to be more closed off and kind of given up. But to see the 11th Doctor, who's always quite an upbeat character, kind of just give up on saving lives, I think that's a really interesting direction to go with the 11th Doctor. And I think Matt Smith's excellent portraying a more disillusioned Doctor. I also really like the governess in this. I think Jenna Coleman's while I really enjoy her as Clara, I think the governess is actually my preferred incarnation of Clara's character. I just think she has better chemistry with the 11th Doctor, and I think she's a much more interesting character, which I would have loved to have seen more from. Saying that though, her death at the end of this Christmas special, it was unexpected, but it does lead to a great cliffhanger when the 11th Doctor realised that he has encountered the exact same woman before in Asylum of the Daleks. So I really enjoy The Snowmen. I think it is an underrated Christmas special. It's one of those I can watch around Christmas, and it really does get me in the mood, but it's not overboard on Christmas like some of Moffat's other Christmas specials. The 12th Doctor. Now, this is the most difficult one because I think that the 12th Doctor's era as a whole is incredibly underrated, especially when I consider Peter Capaldi to be the best actor who has ever portrayed the Doctor. So I think there are a number of episodes which could be considered underrated for the 12th Doctor. However, I am going to pick Last Christmas, the 2014 Christmas special. I think this is very underrated. I feel a lot of people just write it off because it has Santa Claus in it and people just think, oh, that's very daft and stupid. I remember at the time it was released, people were saying, oh, it's stupid, Santa being in it. But I think Last Christmas has a great concept. The idea of these dream crabs, it feels a lot like films like Inception and Alien in the sense of you don't know what's real and what's a dream. So I think that's very interesting. I love what they do with the Doctor and Clara in this episode in the sense of they both lied to one another at the end of Series 8, and now they're going to have to try and confront each other about their lies. Plus, I really like how Clara is shown to really want to be in her dream, in the sense of she can be with Danny and she can enjoy Christmas with him and just have a normal life. So I think that's really interesting, and it kind of makes you think, if given the opportunity, would you rather live in a dream than in reality? Because I know sometimes for myself, dreams do seem a lot better than reality. So it is an interesting thing to think about. Plus, I think Nick Frost is great as Santa Claus. I like how they use that character in the sense of, as the Doctor says, it's so stupid. We're thinking, is this a reality or dream? But we've got bloody Santa Claus in the corner, so obviously it's not real. So I just think it's staring you in the face that it's all a dream, but you still kind of just assume it could be real. So I think that's really interesting what they do there. The only problem I have with this episode is the ending, when it's shown that Clara is not actually an old woman, and you know, and that her and the Doctor go off travelling once again. I feel like as this episode was supposed to be Clara's final episode until Stephen Moffat managed to persuade Jenna Coleman to return for another series, I think it would have been the perfect end for Clara's character. But that doesn't really take away from the fact that I think Last Christmas is just a bloody good episode of Doctor Who, and I don't think people give it enough attention. The 13th Doctor. Now, once again, this was difficult because I don't think that the 13th Doctor's era is very good, mostly because of Chris Chibnall's atrocious writing. So I just kind of, an underrated episode for me is one which I actually enjoyed. So I'm going to pick Village of the Angels, purely because I think the Weeping Angels needed an episode in which they were scary again. I feel like Stephen Moffat, even though he was the creator of the Weeping Angels, he just kind of diluted their fear factor after a while, especially with the Angels in Manhattan, which, you know, even though I consider it a decent episode, I feel like the Weeping Angels weren't as scary in that as they were in Blink. With Village of the Angels, I was scared of the Weeping Angels again. I like how it added some lore to the Angels, showing how they were actually secret agents. So I think that was interesting. I was interested what they did with the Weeping Angels. Obviously, it's part of the Flux series, so obviously it's very difficult to talk about just one episode because technically all 6 episodes are interconnected. So I'd say, to be honest, Flux is an underrated series. I think a lot of people, by this time, the 13th Doctor era, those who hated the 13th Doctor era were not even prepared to give it the benefit of the doubt. So I think the Village of the Angels is an underrated episode from an underrated series of Doctor Who. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. Now, it is actually shocking that the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who is literally in less than a week. We've got the first 60th special, The Star Beast, out on the 25th of November. I cannot wait for that. I actually had to book some holiday from work so I could finish early, so I could be home to watch it, because I'm so excited for Doctor Who. I haven't been this excited for the show since Series 10 was released in 2017. So it feels like, you know, even though I didn't like the Chibnall era of Doctor Who, I stayed with it because I know what Doctor Who can do when it's on full steam. So I'm just hoping that in the hands of Russell T Davies and David Tennant, these 60th specials are going to be ones to remember. I'm hoping that in 10 years' time, I can sit there and say, I remember watching them on TV and I remember them being fantastic. So I really can't wait for the 60th. I'm hoping you guys are looking forward to it too, and I will see you in another one. See ya!